Good morning. Welcome to Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. I'm Cheryl Warner in NASA's Office of Communications. We're live from the Robotic Operations Center, where NASA is developing some of the technologies needed for its Asteroid Redirect mission, or ARM. You just saw a short video highlighting the mission, and we have some special guests here today to tell us more about what ARM is, how it will enable our journey to Mars, and help protect our planet. Our first guest today is the President's Science Advisor, Dr. John P. Holdren, NASA Administrator Charles Bolden, and ARM Program Director Michelle Gates. First, we'll hear some remarks from Mr. Holdren.
Thank you very much. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. I wanted to put the ARM mission in context of the President's and NASA's vision for expanding the human exploration of space. That vision is ambitious, it's coherent, it's systematic. It has four major pieces. The first piece of that strategy is working with the private sector, working with industry to develop the most cost-effective capacities to expand our presence in space that we possibly can. The second component is developing the new, innovative, advanced technologies that will be needed to take us all the way to Mars and beyond. That involves in-space refueling, it involves habitat development, it involves how you protect astronauts on these long missions, it involves advanced propulsion and much more. The third element of this strategy is extending the use of the International Space Station into the mid-2020s so that it can continue to serve as a test bed for some of those advanced technologies and a jumping off point, as well as a scientific platform, an educational platform, even a diplomatic platform. The fourth component is a set of missions of increasing ambition, taking humans further and further into space, beyond, way beyond low Earth orbit. What we'll be doing next is setting up operations in a stable orbit around the moon, which in fact is the most sensible jumping off point for a Mars mission, because as opposed to the surface of the moon, you don't have to spend the energy to lift all of your payloads back out of moon's gravity. This is a conclusion of, I think, everybody who's looked really carefully at the dynamics and the mechanics of getting to Mars. You do it from a jumping off point in stable orbit around the moon. The ARM mission exploits and will exploit a whole variety of technologies that come together to advance our progress toward the moon. One is human operations in a stable orbit around the moon. Another is the combination of robotic capabilities that will pull a boulder from an asteroid and bring it into that orbit, and the human capabilities, the judgment, the on-the-spot decision-making that only humans can deliver. And the demonstration of advanced electric propulsion capabilities that will be used to reach that asteroid and bring a boulder back from it. And the other benefits of this mission, which are just extraordinary, include demonstrating capabilities that ultimately we may need to deflect an asteroid on a collision course with the Earth. This is a hazard that 65 million years ago the dinosaurs succumbed to. We have to be smarter than the dinosaurs. They went extinct when a large asteroid hit the Yucatan Peninsula. And we are going to get better through this asteroid redirect mission at identifying dangerous asteroids, learning how to deflect them, and we will learn in addition how to exploit asteroids commercially. Asteroids contain materials that can be used to resupply space missions and ultimately may be valuable sources of materials for long-term existence of humans in space. You know, President Obama has said, we're going to space not just to visit, but to stay. And the asteroid mission is the next important step on that trajectory.
Excellent, thank you, sir. We'll now hear from Administrator Bolden.
Thanks very much, and I want to thank Dr. Holdren especially for taking time to come out here and be with us on this very special day. It's a full day. I also want to thank Michelle Gates, who's the program manager for the Asteroid Redirect mission. As I said, we're going to talk just a little bit briefly about the overview of the mission, a little details, and then the big part of the day is this afternoon when industry is allowed to come in and spend a little time with us. And they've been working with us for a number of years now, but this is sort of the piece de resistance when we bring them in and let them actually look at the mock-ups. I have to thank also Chris Scalise and the team out here at Goddard for not only hosting and establishing this test facility, but for hosting this particular program. So thanks again to Chris and the team here. You know, engineers and scientists actually around the world have been involved in thinking about this for a number of years now. As Dr. Holdren said, we want to be smarter than the dinosaur. And at NASA, what we've tried to do is take a step-by-step incremental approach to being able to get humans to Mars. If you look at how we've arranged it, we have three, I consider them zones in the solar system, and those zones are actually where we live today. We live and work in near Earth orbit. We've been on the International Space Station for almost 16 years, and we have learned a lot, and there's a lot more to be learned, as Dr. Holdren mentioned. The other thing is the next area we want to go is back to the lunar vicinity, and so when we're working on the International Space Station, we just call that the Earth reliant phase. We rely on our home planet. We're hours away, so we can get supplies, we can rescue crews, we can do lots of things. We want to next move out where we're a little bit more distant, and in that particular case, when we go out to what we call cislunar space, the vicinity around the moon, we're going to be a couple of days away. So that's going to stretch our capabilities. We're going to have to figure out new ways to supply ourselves, to test the technologies that are going to be necessary when we finally take the big step to go with humans out to Mars. So time-wise, we've been working on this Earth-reliant phase for about 50 years when you really get down to it. When we move out to cislunar space, that's going to be the period of the 20s. And then when you get to the 30s, then now we're going to be Earth independent. That is a big step. We've been dreaming, humans have been dreaming of going to Mars as long as people have been looking up at the sky almost, and we're finally almost there. Some of us can taste it. So when we move out to Mars, that's what we call the Earth independent stage, where we're going to have to either take stuff with you, make it on the way, or make it when you get to the Martian surface. So those are the technologies that Dr. Holdren was talking about. We're really excited about being out here to talk a little bit about the asteroid redirect mission, because for us, having been an astronaut before and having found out that flying in space is not like flying an airplane, things that you intuitively do when you're flying an airplane don't work in space due to something called orbital mechanics. We also know that when we get to low gravity and no gravity environments, the way that we will be around some of the moons of Mars and other places, we're going to have to teach ourselves new techniques. We're going to have to learn new procedures. In trying to open this up to bring the commercial entities in, we also want to develop technologies and techniques that we can then hand off to private enterprises, whether they're entrepreneurs, academics, or industry, so that they can do things like asteroid mining. So that's the big purpose for the asteroid redirect mission. It's an important step for us on the journey to Mars. It's going to give us an opportunity to sit out in the proving ground and make sure that we understand the kinds of things that we need to do when we finally send our astronauts to Mars, because it's an exciting time, but we've got to have our act together when we go there. So hopefully you all will learn a little bit more than you knew when you started this program today, and I'm going to let you turn it over to Michelle, because she's the expert here with us, and she'll give us a little bit more detail.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here with both of you, Dr. Holdren and Administrator Bolden. The asteroid redirect mission really is a vital step in our journey to Mars, in particular that proving ground of cislunar space. As we move from the Earth-reliant operations in low Earth orbit to the proving ground where we can get our astronaut crews back within a matter of days if we need to, and then to Earth-reliant phase where, for example, missions to Mars are on the scale of years in duration. The asteroid redirect mission really provides a demonstration and an important integrated mission opportunity in cislunar space. There is a robotic mission component and a crewed mission component. The robotic mission does have a first ever demonstration of advanced solar electric propulsion in moving multi-ton masses through interplanetary space-like trajectories. In particular, we will use this advanced solar electric propulsion system to transit a couple of years to a near-Earth asteroid and acquire a multi-ton boulder, as you mentioned, Dr. Holdren, from the surface of the asteroid. We will then actually use the gravitational mass of that multi-ton boulder and the spacecraft to alter the trajectory of the parent asteroid in a deflection demonstration for planetary defense purposes, as you had mentioned as well. We'll then use the spaceflight system to ferry that multi-ton asteroidal mass back to a gravitationally neutral point in the lunar vicinity, as you mentioned as well. About 10 years from now, our astronauts will launch on the Space Launch System and Orion crew capsules, our next generation systems under development now by the agency that will start testing with our crews 5 to 7 years from now, I believe, if my memory serves. But 10 years from now, our crews will transit the several day trip to the asteroid boulder, multi-ton mass, and the SEP spacecraft, rendezvous with it, and select, extract, and return samples with them in the Orion capsule back here to Earth.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all. You did a great job explaining to us why the asteroid redirect mission is important to our nation and the journey to Mars. So Michelle, I'm going to ask you a question. Tell us a little bit more about where we actually are in mission formulation.
Absolutely. And so the crewed mission segment that I had mentioned is still in pre-formulation. It is planned as an early mission in cislunar space. It's about 25 days to a month in duration, so it's a significant duration for our astronaut crews in the mid-2020s. The robotic mission just received approval for Phase B, which is the phase of spacecraft development in which we baseline a mission design, including spacecraft design, trajectory design, orbital mechanics, mission duration, and all of the technical parameters that define the spacecraft mission. Preliminary design review and baseline is planned for late in 2017, and then a follow-on approval at the agency level for March of 2018. There are many systems under prototype, including the ones you see behind us, the robotic systems for capture. The spacecraft development is ongoing with industry to leverage commercial capabilities that industry can provide to us, as well as provide a path for industry use of advanced solar electric propulsion in the future.
Thank you, Michelle. Dr. Holdren, you touched on this a little bit in terms of planetary defense. If you think about an asteroid heading toward Earth, it sounds like something out of the movies, but are we as a nation prepared for that?
We are not fully prepared, but we are on a trajectory to get much more so. We've invested increasing resources in detecting asteroids of a dangerous size that could be on a collision course with the Earth. We've had some recent experiences that indicate how challenging this is. In 2013, a smallish asteroid exploded over Siberia with the force of about 400 kilotons or 500 kilotons of TNT. Did a lot of damage on the ground. Something like 1,000 people were injured by flying glass and so on. That explosion was in the range of 30 times bigger than the Hiroshima nuclear bomb. We had in 1908 a much larger asteroid explosion, again over a part of Siberia. Fortunately did not occur over a heavily populated area, but it exploded with the equivalent of multiple megatons of explosive force. So we know that this does happen. It's rare. The impact that occurred in 2013 is estimated to have been a 1 in 100-year event. The impact that occurred in 1908 was estimated to have been a 1 in 1,000-year event. But again, if we are going to be as capable a civilization as our technology allows, we need to be prepared for even those rare events because they could do a lot of damage to the Earth. And as part of that preparation, we have the planetary defense aspects of the asteroid retrieval mission. Again, I would emphasize that the asteroid retrieval mission makes sense in about 5 different ways. It makes sense for science, for better understanding the composition of asteroids and what they can tell us about the origins of the solar system. It makes sense from the standpoint of technology demonstration, demonstrating technologies that we're going to need for the mission to Mars. It makes sense in terms of human operations in cislunar space, again, the most appropriate stepping off point for Mars. And it makes sense for the possibilities of using asteroids as sources of materials, potentially sources of fuel, sources of water, to resupply space missions and ultimately to meet needs on Earth. So this is a multi-purpose mission, but the planetary defense aspect is one important part of it.
Understood, thank you. Administrator Bolden, as we know, the second part of this mission involves sending a crew to the asteroid Boulder. Can you tell us where we are with the development of the systems that will send them there?
We're actually going to have an opportunity to talk about some of them this afternoon. One of the things that we're very proud of is the fact that we have the SLS, the Space Launch System, and the Orion crew module that have now been in development. They're off the drawing board. We now are cutting hardware. We've actually flown Orion successfully back in December of 2014. A very successful mission, farther away from Earth than any vehicle intended to carry humans had been in more than 40 years. I love to tell people, come with me to Michoud outside of New Orleans, where you can actually see the barrel sections of the massive Space Launch System now being welded and assembled. We are going to fly the test flight of SLS and Orion mated in 2018. That will be an uncrewed mission out to the vicinity of the moon and orbit several times, and then in the early 2020s we'll put a crew on board Orion and fly that particular mission. In the mid-20s, when I say Michelle and her team are successful in moving the asteroidal mass to cislunar space and to a stable orbit around the moon, we're actually going to allow a crew to attach themselves to the device that some of you can see behind me, and they'll actually use that as an exit way out of Orion onto the asteroidal mass, where they can do experimentation on technology development, on procedures development, And this is a continuation. I talk about step-by-step things all the time. We've actually been doing simulations at the Johnson Space Center, simulations here, simulations at many of our NASA centers. We've also spent the last, I think, 3 years in our underwater proving ground called NEMO. So that has been dedicated to asteroid research, if you will. How do humans attach themselves to an asteroid, which may be no gravity or very low gravity? So we've been coming along up until now, and the mid-2020s will give us an opportunity to really send a crew out to do some of the kinds of things that we think we may have to do when you get out into the Martian environment, where you're distant from Earth, out in the Earth independent phase, where our crews will be much better prepared to do the kinds of operations that they want out there. So it's an incremental, step-by-step approach that we're using.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Gates, can you tell us a little bit more about the target asteroid that we have in mind that we're going to visit?
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, the science community selected our reference target, which is 2008 EV5. It is a carbonaceous asteroid, believed to be one of potentially 4 types. It is anticipated to be potentially 20% water, volatile rich, and contains the compounds from early formation of the solar system, the record that's only available through certain classes of asteroids. The asteroid has never been visited before, which was a desire of the science community. The resources community, in particular, folks who are interested in using asteroidal resources, asteroidal mining, in situ resources, are very interested in this target as well. And so our mission design work is all being done around this target. Our capture capability prototyping you see behind us is being done with the assumptions of this target. And we have a very lengthy report from the external community, actually, recently out in February of this year. Available on our website, www.nasa.gov/ARM, the FAST report, which is 167 pages of detail, if anyone is interested.
Sure, I can add one thing. I can't believe I forgot this, but last week we had an incredible mission that was launched called OSIRIS-REx.
Yes.
And as I talk about an incremental approach to what we're doing, a lot of the folk who are here at Goddard, because they were essentially the key members of the OSIRIS-REx team, we launched a satellite that is going to make a couple of year transit to another asteroid that is pretty well studied, Bennu. When it gets there, we're going to study that asteroid for about 2 years. We're going to pick landing sites. We're going to do a better characterization of it. And then finally, when we're confident that we know where we want to land and how to do it, the OSIRIS-REx is actually going to take itself down to very close proximity to the surface of Bennu and use a long arm that'll go down, penetrate the surface, and dust and debris and and whatever you want to call it from an asteroid to come up and be captured into a canister that we will then bring back to Earth for subsequent study. So it'll go into what we currently call the lunar repository at the Johnson Space Center, where planetary scientists will be able to take real samples from Bennu and begin to study them. And that will feed in to the subsequent asteroid redirect mission. So everything we do is incrementally planned to support each other. And I did not want to forget about OSIRIS-REx.
Thank you for adding that. Very quickly, do you have any last remarks? Because we're going to wrap up here. Dr. Gates?
I just encourage folks to visit our website and look at all the recent progress, including with the spacecraft bus, our announcement for partnerships that was just released, the prototyping information on our technologies, and all the benefits of the mission that Dr. Holdren spoke of.
I'm just happy to be here and have Dr. Holdren here. It's not every day that we get the President's Science Advisor to come out to the Goddard Space Flight Center. So excited about this mission, excited about the fact that we're going to expose industry to it again today and let them give us some inputs. But just real good time for the agency.
And I would just add that the President is excited about this mission as well. He spoke about an asteroid mission in 2010 when he talked about the way we were building a systematic, coherent, visionary approach to moving deeper into space and conducting ever more elaborate operations in space. We think this mission is a great example that pulls together so many threads of what we need to be doing on the way to Mars.
Great, well thank you all. We appreciate you being here today. We're excited about this mission as well. In fact, if you're interested in learning more about the asteroid redirect mission, today, September 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern, if you check out www.nasa.gov/ARM, you can tune into our virtual update. And immediately following that, at 3 p.m. Eastern today, we're going to have a Facebook Live Q&A with more staff to talk about the asteroid redirect mission. Again, check out www.nasa.gov/ARM. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. I'm Cheryl Warner in NASA's Office of Communications. We're live from the Robotic Operations Center, where NASA is developing some of the technologies needed for its Asteroid Redirect mission, or ARM. You just saw a short video highlighting the mission, and we have some special guests here today to tell us more about what ARM is, how it will enable our journey to Mars, and help protect our planet. Our first guest today is the President's Science Advisor, Dr. John P. Holdren, NASA Administrator Charles Bolden, and ARM Program Director Michelle Gates. First, we'll hear some remarks from Mr. Holdren.
Thank you very much. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. I wanted to put the ARM mission in context of the President's and NASA's vision for expanding the human exploration of space. That vision is ambitious, it's coherent, it's systematic. It has four major pieces. The first piece of that strategy is working with the private sector, working with industry to develop the most cost-effective capacities to expand our presence in space that we possibly can. The second component is developing the new, innovative, advanced technologies that will be needed to take us all the way to Mars and beyond. That involves in-space refueling, it involves habitat development, it involves how you protect astronauts on these long missions, it involves advanced propulsion, and much more. The third element of this strategy is extending the use of the International Space Station into the mid-2020s so that it can continue to serve as a test bed for some of those advanced technologies and a jumping off point, as well as a scientific platform, an educational platform, even a diplomatic platform. The fourth component is a set of missions of increasing ambition, taking humans further and further into space, beyond, way beyond low Earth orbit. What we'll be doing next is setting up operations in a stable orbit around the moon, which in fact is the most sensible jumping off point for a Mars mission, because as opposed to the surface of the moon, you don't have to spend the energy to lift all of your payloads back out of moon's gravity. This is a conclusion of, I think, everybody who's looked really carefully at the dynamics and the mechanics of getting to Mars. You do it from a jumping off point in stable orbit around the moon. The ARM mission exploits and will exploit a whole variety of technologies that come together to advance our progress toward the moon. One is human operations in a stable orbit around the moon. Another is the combination of robotic capabilities that will pull a boulder from an asteroid and bring it into that orbit, and the human capabilities, the judgment, the on-the-spot decision-making that only humans can deliver. And the demonstration of advanced electric propulsion capabilities that will be used to reach that asteroid and bring a boulder back from it. And the other